Hello, Canada. Welcome back to One Soccer Today. Oliver Platt and Gareth Wheeler joining me, not the two-time now Canadian Screen Award winner Andy Petrillo, but maybe someday, potentially, maybe we'll see. But yes, congratulations, Andy. She was she accepted the award from vacation, but she was not willing to put up with you two for the rest of her vacation. That says a lot about
you know what, Adam. She just knew how much both Ollie and I miss you. We miss your presence. We miss your musk. We miss everything about you. That's why it's so exciting. The new CPL season's starting because we get to hang out all the time, buddy. There you go.
That's right. We are back in business. It begins tomorrow, and that is a perfect segue from Gareth Wheeler, which I expect nothing else from Gareth Wheeler, into the Canadian Premier League. It begins with a rematch of my favorite CPL match of all time, the now infamous Labor Day Classic in the rain at Wanderers grounds. It is Halifax, and it is York United to get things rolling in 2022. We have a lot to discuss about the season, but we begin with one of our favorite segments here on One Soccer, and that is Gareth Wheeler's power rankings. We have asked Gareth Wheeler to put the squads, all 8 of them, into tiers from championship contenders, playoff probables to maybe next year. Gareth, what say you in your rankings for 2022?
I love this.
I love it.
It's the most wonderful time of the year.
Yeah, the wheels up, wheels down, appropriately timed power rankings to kick off the new campaign. Want me to start from the bottom and work our way up?
Let's do that.
Are you doing tiers or are you just going?
I have rankings, but I'll fit them into tiers. Okay, so it's the best of both worlds. Coming in at number 8, dead last. Simply put, we have no idea what to expect from this group. It's FC Edmonton. Players have come from far and wide to join up with FC Edmonton, the Eddies, ahead of this season. I think it's just the unknown factor, guys. I don't think they're going to be bad. I think that they're actually going to surprise quite a few people. They're going to be that plucky team with a chip on their shoulder that's going to be difficult to play against. I think Alan Koch is a top manager as well. But based upon all the change and the relative unknown, they have to come in at number 8, and they're outside of contention. Another team that's in that bottom tier for me, Halifax Wanderers.
Wow.
They need to go out and prove that they can win away from home. No excuses this year. 2 away, 2 home, a balanced schedule here in the Canadian Premier League. Simply put, they've been abysmal on their away travels. If you cannot pick up points away from home in this league, then you're going to be nowhere close to the top 4. I'm not sure how much they've improved. I like the Aiden Daniels pickup. I rate him as a player. Still, I think that they need another attacking player or 2 to take some of the goal-scoring responsibilities away from João Morelli. So there's too much unknown in Halifax for me, so they find themselves at the bottom. Coming in at number 6, York United. A new manager. I think Nashi's going to have them very well organized this year. He's brought in some experience, but a very young team. Can you win with kids? I mean, they snuck into the playoffs last year, but really that 4th spot, no one really wanted it, to be fair. It was just a race where everyone was walking and you're waiting for someone to take off and go for a sprint. And York managed to be marginally better than the rest. I think they might take a little bit of a step back this year. At number 5, and still in that second tier, is Valor. I think Valor had the potential to make it into the top 4. I'm really looking forward to an entire season under Big Phil. Andrew Jean-Baptiste, his return is going to be so crucial. They're just a very competitive team with him. It's a difficult ask without. And what will we see in a sophomore campaign from William McKeough? Because he looked the real deal. If he can prove to be the real deal, then Valor's a team that no one will like to play. And finally, in that second tier, in 4th place, we have Atletico Ottawa. Balou Tabla, the marquee signing of this offseason. I think that Carl Haworth is a great pickup. There's some experience. They bring in a manager who's straight out of the Atleti family. You know how they're going to play in a 4-4-2. They're going to be difficult. They did spend that month in Madrid again. I think they'll be very well prepared. I think the team is deeper and better suited to go on and contend. At least put a step forward in contending this season. At number 3, it's the champs. The champs are here at number 3, and they're in the top tier, by the way, in contenders, and that's Pacific FC. We'll see how much the loss of Pamadou will mean. 4 starters have left the team too. Hojabrapar, Campbell, McNaughton, Chung. Can they overcome all of those losses? I love the pickups of Didic and Mavia. I think they're going to solidify the back line, but it may be a little bit too much to ask. Maybe a few too many players have left to provide that kind of stability. At number 2, Forge FC. They lose their top scorer, Mobabuli. We'll see about the health of Crutzen. Eliman Cisse, he hasn't re-signed with Forge as far as I know. That is a considerable loss. They've lost some key players. Now, I trust Bobby Smirniotis. He continues to bring through young players who impress, who surprise. The team's going to be in the mix all the way to the end, but I can only put them at number 2 because Cavalry FC, the side that's picked up more points in the regular season in the Canadian Premier League than any other over the course of the league's history, they come in at number 1. A line, whether the ball crossed it in 2019, took away a North Star shield. Then in 2021, basically the same thing happened. Look, these things, it shows you just how slim the margins are between success and victory, or success and failure, I should say. This is a team that's brought in experience. Yes, they lose Mo Farsi, but they bring in a productive player in Fraser Aird, 5 goals and 5 assists. Farsi had 2 and 1 last season. They can play direct. I think that Bevan up top is going to play either in conjunction or in a supporting role to Joe Mason, who with a full season now ahead of him and a season that's less congested, I think we can see the best out of Joe Mason. They have a talented midfield. Atakubi's back in with Lutori, such an exciting young player for the future. The back of the way that they're structured, no one's better in the Canadian Premier League. This has to be the year for Tommy Wheeldon Jr. Wheels up in 2022. They start the season atop. The wheels up, wheels down. Canadian Premier League appropriately timed power rankings.
I only say this
Wheels
with respect, but this is the first time I have agreed with you on every single team in every single order. The only thing I want to add before I give it to Oliver Platt for his thoughts is, because sports are weird, that is one of the reasons why we love them. One of those top 3, for whatever reason, it's not going to click. I don't know who, I don't know why, I don't know if it's injuries or any other extraordinary circumstance. I have Valor and Ottawa both in the top 4 this year, just to make it an absolutely wild season. But the power rankings, they are spot on. Ollie, what say you? You made an audible gasp about the Halifax Wanderers being as far low as they were.
The takes are flying this morning. I think I'm pretty much agree with Wheels as tiers. The only one I change is I'd have Halifax in tier 2. And I would love to make a prediction with Valor, Halifax, Ottawa, and York as to who's going to end up where, who's going to be in, who's going to be out. I think I could write all those teams down on pieces of paper, toss them up in the air and see which way they fall. And it would be better than me making a prediction as to how they're going to finish. You know, it was so tight last season. And I think it could be like that again. I do like a lot of what Atletico Ottawa have done this offseason. You know, I think the core is so much stronger now than it was last year. And Balou Tabla could be the most talented player in this league, right? If he gets going and stays healthy, he could be as good as anyone. So I think we're about on the same page with the tiers. I don't know if I'd have Cavalry top. They're going to be up there near the top of the league. I don't think there's going to be any question about that. But what we have seen in the playoffs with this team, they struggle to break games open, right? They just lack that little bit of extra magic in the final third in a tight playoff game. I don't know if have they added enough of that to really say that this year is going to be different. That's the question for me with them. But they're always, you know, solid enough and competitive enough to be right near the top of the standings in the regular season.
There are so many signings across the league that I genuinely really love this year. You rightfully point out Balou Tabla, but just to build off what Will said, I don't know that there's one that makes more sense as in a perfect fit than Fraser Aird to Cavalry. If you do a 3-4-3 and you got Escalante and Aird on either wing, they're going to be absolutely awful to play against. And they're just, it seems like they've got that great mix. So to me, I don't know how this is anyone else's league to lose other than Cavalry. And like you said, Wills, it just seems like it's in the stars for them this year. I think they've got enough hardship from 3 seasons to motivate them to cross the line. And those 3 seasons is what I want to talk about next. That's sort of the overall picture on where you might find the sides as the league begins, as the season progresses. But in terms of the league itself, let's talk about that a little bit, Ollie, because this is season 4 for the CPL, but in a way, it's CPL 2.0 with the regular season, the balanced schedule. Everything is ahead of people. You can plan for September now when you couldn't even plan for 2 weeks from you the last 2 years. And in terms of the growth of this league, Ollie, where do you think the CPL slides into the North American sporting landscape right now? And how impressed are you, or perhaps unimpressed, it's up to you, about how they've been able to navigate the pandemic and be where they are heading into year 4?
I'll split it into two halves, right? I think on fields, I think the league has exceeded expectations and quite comfortably exceeded expectations, and especially when you look at what they've had to deal with the pandemic. I think the players and the coaches deserve massive amounts of credit for the teams they've been able to put on the field, for the way they've managed the past couple of years. We've seen players go to a higher level. We've seen Forge, do amazing things in continental football that I don't think anyone expected at this point in the league's history. And I think it's been, a pretty ringing endorsement of the idea that a lot of people had before the league started, that there is a lot of talent in this country that wasn't being tapped into, that wasn't being, used and given opportunities as much as it deserved. And, the players and coaches of this league, I think, have come in and proved that over the first 3 seasons. Off field, I don't get me wrong, I think have been a lot positive. I do think the pandemic has had more of a negative effect on that side of things. I don't know if we're quite where we would like to be now in terms of expansion. Obviously, we hopefully have a couple more teams coming, not in the not too distant future, but I think you would probably like to be closer to pushing to 10 to 12 teams by this point than we are. Hopefully now we're in more of a real world and things are more normal. We can start to see that process accelerate, and we can start to really grow this league around the country, and obviously capitalize on all the attention and momentum that's around Canadian soccer right now. So I don't think you can't say that the pandemic hasn't had an effect and hasn't held the league back in certain ways over the past couple of years. But the way the league has been able to play through it and now come out of it, I think is largely really positive.
Gareth, what do you think?
Building off that, it's very difficult to develop a devout fan base, group of supporters who care on a regular basis when you're not playing in your own backyard.
Yeah.
There has been one proper Canadian Premier League season, which came about relatively quickly. There wasn't a whole lot of time to prepare or build momentum or create a buzz in these local markets. Year 2, it's a tournament in Prince Edward Island. Year 3, all the games are so congested and people's lives are being turned upside down. This really, for me, is year 2. So I'll wait for the off-field stuff, just the buzz, full stadiums, what the support looks like based on what we see this year, which will be a real Canadian Premier League season. On the field, everything to do with this league has exceeded my expectations. Being a longtime individual who's been in Canadian soccer, I just wasn't sure what it was going to look like, how it was going to all come together, what the standard was going to be. What the Canadian Premier League continues to prove is that, yes, there is a need for a league like this. And yes, players, when given the chance, can go in and thrive and impress and exceed expectations. And right now, you pair the really good play on the field, seeing some players move on, play really well at the next level, a league that is televised on a regular basis with a decent broadcast. You put all that together, there's tape on these players. And now I know there's widespread interest from clubs in Europe, bigger clubs that could be a stepping stone to others, in Canadian Premier League players. That is a wonderful thing for this league. It's a wonderful thing for the business. It's a wonderful thing for the growth. In all of those areas, it's blown me away in terms of expectations in the way it's being presented and the way that it's playing out. And I feel like we're just scratching the surface, Adam. So ask me at the end of this season, I'll probably have a more complete answer, but so far so good. So great for the Canadian Premier League.
2 things to add on this, and I want to make the first point quick so it doesn't look like we're tapping ourselves on the back, because it's not the 3 of us, but it's the brain trust behind One Soccer and Media Pro Canada, because it's a great point about the televised and the broadcasted footage that's available to these players. And you're already seeing it. Meyer Bevan sees one of his good friends growing up, Moses Dyer, a Kiwi, come to Canada, excel, have the tape, have the coverage. And he goes, I want some of that. Now we're connecting pathways. We've had other players. I think it was Dylan Sacramento who went to New Zealand and helped did the same thing. People meeting up in Finland and saying, yeah, I was just in Canada. You should give it a go. And then they come and it's a launch pad, or it's a chance to revitalize.
Good place
and we might
to live,
see that.
Adam.
It's a great place to live.
You could go to a lot of other places in the world and try to play professional soccer. Why not Canada? And you provide, the competitive league, good standard of living. Like, this is what it's about, right? So it's coming together. And we're not all the way there yet, but it's being pieced together very nicely by a group of committed coaches and ownership groups who are providing those conditions as well. And they deserve a whole lot of credit.
And a group of very, very dedicated supporters, because as we've rightfully pointed out, the league went through some hardships where there was a pandemic. You couldn't go see the games, but they were still watching the broadcast. They were in the Discord servers. They were on Twitter. They did the virtual events with their clubs when they couldn't see them. And now they're really going to get rewarded with a full season here. So I'm very excited for everyone from Vancouver Island to Halifax. And one of the big pieces of news from the offseason was that David Klanikin, who was the league's first commissioner, announced that he was stepping away. One of the things he received as he transitioned out of the commissioner's chair was the rights to a franchise, a club in Windsor, Essex. But what we haven't learned yet is A, when that franchise might come to fruition, and B, who is going to replace David Klanikin. The executive committee is doing their due diligence. This is obviously a move, an appointment that they want to get right, that they need to get right. And Gareth, I'll ask you this, unless you're putting your hat in the ring and just haven't told us about it yet, whoever takes that job, what do you think should be priority number one for that person from day one as the second commissioner in CPL?
I know everyone wants expansion. Like, that's the sexy thing. Bring in all these I want to make sure that the home markets right now are as strong as they can be. So providing whatever they require in order for those home markets to be as successful as possible. And part of that has to do with how this league will look from a competitive perspective. I think it's of the utmost importance, and Ollie and KJ have discussed this at great length, is making sure that every game matters. There needs to be some sort of reward for going on and winning the regular season. You ask people to commit to watching 28 games. There should be a carrot dangled there. So I kind of look more to the overall structural of the way that the league will run from a week-to-week basis more than anything big picture. I know that that's a commissioner's job, making sure that the business is healthy, and you continue to welcome in corporate sponsors and corporate entities to make it that much more appealing for future investors. But there's things you can do right now to the league that can subtly improve the overall standard of what it means on a game-to-game basis.
Mm-hmm.
Ollie?
I had two, and one is exactly that. I think we need to look at the regular season. I want to see a trophy for the regular season winner. I want to see that Champions League spot, that second Champions League spot, go to the regular season winner. I would look at some structural changes to playoff qualification and things like that. Even, and I'm looking at the long term here. I think it's important this league has a pathway to promotion and relegation down the line. I know that's a long way off, but I hope we don't rule it out in the longer term. The second thing is expansion. I think the league has taken an approach, and I understand it, and maybe this has been sensible early on, where they don't really talk a lot about expansion, and they wait until they have something really sure and solid to announce, and then they do it. I think we're at a point now where everybody wants a piece of Canadian soccer, right? With what the men's national team is doing, with what the women's national team did last year. There's never been a better time in Canadian soccer. We need to be going around the country, going to potential markets, talking the CPL up. Every opportunity we get to sell the CPL to these potential different cities and communities around this country, potential ownership groups, let's really talk about it. Let's get it in the media. Let's have a constant conversation around the future of this league and future expansion teams. I don't think we should be scared of doing that right now, just because, a team here or there might not work out, and we might have talked about, the potential for it. I don't think we need to be frightened about that. I think we should go and really be selling this league and trying to pump it up and pump future teams as much as we possibly can. So I'd like to see a new commissioner really play an active role in that.
What I loved hearing, well, there were a lot of things I loved hearing from John Herdman with Christian Jack after the qualification against Jamaica, but when he sort of had that instant reflection on the path that this team has come from, and he said, look, I used to knock on doors for this team. We got to do that with the CPL because we need more people to know about it. Very good point, Oliver Platt. Speaking of turnover, we will start the 2022 season with 3 new coaches. James Merriman, who is a hybrid new coach because he has the only undefeated record in CPL history. That is my favorite stat about James Merriman, but he is also obviously taking over from Pamadou Khan Pacific. Martin Nash takes over for Jimmy Brennan at York United, and Carlos Gonzalez at Atletico Ottawa. Oliver Platt, which of these 3 gentlemen is under the most pressure to perform in their market this season?
You can make an argument for any one of them, but I think it's Martin Nash. I think York has let go a coach who made the playoffs, right? Who got them in the top 4. And I know, they maybe limped in a little bit, but that was still an achievement, still something that you looked at a young team and you thought they could build on with Jimmy Brennan in charge next year. So I think Martin Nash is more than ready and more than worthy of an opportunity as a head coach. He's proven his credentials as an assistant with Cavalry. but in a very tight playoff race, he has to repeat that now, right? He has to get this team in the playoffs and hopefully a bit more, hopefully develop the team a bit more. And like Wheels just had them sixth in his power rankings there, and I can understand why, because of the competition that's around them. So I think there's a degree of pressure on him to really hit the ground running with this team and make sure they repeat that top 4 finish.
Nice try, but wrong answer. It's James Merriman. The most difficult job to take over is when the team just won. Of course, the standard's being set incredibly high. They just won the North Star Shield. So what's an acceptable result for Pacific FC this season? Do they need to go on and win it again? If they take a step back, is that on the head coach? It's an incredible, I don't care what sport it is. You never want to take over the job from someone who just won the championship, because that expectation remains the exact same, that they go on and win it. And if you don't, who do people look at? The manager. It's not his fault. It may not be his fault, but that's the way that it'll be perceived.
They'll make the playoffs. And I don't know if you can really say title or bust in a playoff league where it comes down to 2 games or 3 games, right? Like it's too much there's too much randomness there. They'll make the playoffs.
It's not just the results, Ollie. He's also taking over for one of the most likable individuals in Canadian Premier League history, in Pamadou Ka. Like, there's a lot that comes with that responsibility. So look, I like Merriman. I think he's a great guy. I think he's a really good coach. I think he's the right man for the job, but there's no doubt that the most pressure is on his shoulders. And he is a team that's built to win right now. Not a team just full of kids, not a team that's developing. He's a team that should be in the mix, and probably in a lot of people's opinion will be the top team, the favorite to go on and win the CPL this season.
Don't forget, he will be the captain that steers the Pacific ship into CONCACAF competition for the very first time. Carlos Gonzalez, don't think you're off the hook, by the way, because we know that Atletico Madrid has a standard of championships and performance, so he is certainly going to be feeling some pressure as well. Okay, tomorrow, it's the day it starts at 7:30 p.m., the first weekend in the CPL in 2022. Time for some score predictions, just because Monday was such a monumental day for this sort of thing in Canada. Let us begin with York versus Halifax. Oliver Platt, your score prediction. Pundits' predictions are back.
I feel like I haven't looked this up. I'm kind of making this up, but I feel like we've seen a lot of 1-1s between York and Halifax over the years. So I'm gonna take a 1-1.
1-1. Okay. Let's go, Gareth.
York, Halifax don't win away from home. We all know that. York
they do 2, draw,
Halifax 0.
Atletico Ottawa versus Cavalry, Gareth Wheeler.
I think it's going to be a good game. This could be the game of the weekend for me. Won't be much to choose from between these sides. I think it might just be a goal either way. Let's go Cavalry 1, Atletico Ottawa 0.
Ooh, shutout at home in the home opener from Gareth Wheeler. Oliver Platt, what say you?
Atletico is giving Cavalry some problems, but
they have 3 wins and 4.
Yeah, I think I'm with Wheels on this one. I think we're going to see an Atletico team come flying out the blocks, but then Cavalry might spoil the party a little bit. I'll take 2-1 Cavalry.
FC Edmonton versus Valor. Who is going to play for the Yetis? And Philip Dos Santos, can he keep that momentum rolling, Ollie?
Yeah, I don't love this matchup for FC Edmonton. Obviously, their preparation has not been ideal. They're still kind of getting a squad together, and they're playing a team with a ton of counter-attacking threat in Akio and Dyer and Sean Rea. I think this could be a tough day for them. I'll go 2-0 Valor.
But how do you prepare for FC Edmonton? I feel like at the start of this season, there could be some wonky results until things kind of even out. I think this is a real opportunity for Edmonton at home in their first game to go on and surprise some people. Let's go a 2-2 draw. How about that?
Ready for this? This is my spiciest one of the weekend. One of Moses Dyer or William Akio has a hat trick in the opener for Valor. Weekend. 3 goals. One of the 2. That is my bold prediction for the weekend. Lastly, Pacific versus Forge Championship rematch. Jabrapur and Taryn Campbell have to go home, be celebrated, and then promptly booed. Who gets the result? Gareth Wheeler.
I think they share it. I think that these are 2 good teams. Maybe not. They won't show their best form this weekend. I think it might be a little bit scrappy. So let's go a 1-1 final.
And last word to Oliver Platt.
I think Pacific are just a little bit more steady from last season, even with the players they've lost. You know, a guy like Didic coming in gives you a very good foundation on top of the players they're bringing back. So I'm going to go 2-1 Pacific.
All right. right, pundits predictions round 1. Keep us accountable. Maybe not me on a hat trick. I just have a vibe, but I'm just saying. Let's talk about our national teams because they are, for obvious reasons, very much at the top of the conversation. Not just in the soccer landscape here, but in the Canadian sporting landscape. It is a great time to be a fan of Canadian soccer. We'll get to Nations League first, but we will also do a bit of a deep dive on Canada and Nigeria ahead of the celebration tour. However, Ollie, let's begin with John Herdman's side. World Cup looming. They found out their Nations League opponents, Honduras and Curacao. How do you think John approaches these matches?
Well, I don't think these matches should be dismissed. I know that a lot of people right now have all eyes on the World Cup and nothing else, and I understand that, and they want to see Canada play against European teams and so on. But the Nations League is an important competition because firstly, these are still decent tests, and secondly, like next summer we want Canada to be playing in the Nations League finals. Like last year, those were really good games and really competitive games that you want to be a part of. It was actually the tournament rather than the Gold Cup that the United States sent their best team to. So you don't want to dismiss that. You want to make sure you do the job here of finishing first in this group and making sure you're in that last 4 next year. Now, do I think that it's possible we could see some rotation, some new faces within that? Yes. They're going to play 4 Nations League games. They've only got 4 dates during this June window. Herdman has also said they want to play a friendly during that window. That suggests to me, Wheels may know more, I don't know, but that suggests to me that they're going to have to split the squad, right, and play 2 games, in close proximity to each other, maybe with more of the first team playing a friendly against a bigger nation, and maybe, in a home game against Curacao or whatever, you can put out a bit more of a B team, a bit more of an experimental Canada team, give some different players opportunities and still make sure you get the result in that game. So I don't know, we could see a bit of squad experimentation in that way, but I don't think these games should be dismissed or underestimated in terms of their importance in setting Canada up for more and more competitive matches going into next year.
I haven't heard anything about splitting the squad. I think ideally, you heard Herdman say that as long as they can have that camp overseas in Europe, play a game, then kind of bounce back and forth, which means more expense, more travel. It's just logistically, it provides more of a headache for what that camp's going to look like. Like you want to go beat these teams. You want to go win the games in this region. There's some good players on Curacao too, like Martina, the Bacunas. Like they'll provide a different kind of test. Yes, probably not ideal to be playing these teams in a World Cup year rather than others. But I'm with Ollie. It's like all is not lost. They still do have a level of importance, and it mattered more to Canada when they were the side that was trying to get the CONCACAF points in order to make it into the top 6 rather than the other way around. So we can't go and complain now and, be in favor of it in the past. So yeah, ideally you're just playing big dogs. It's less than ideal in a World Cup year, but you can still make this a positive experience and get something out of it.
Let me get my fake megaphone out as I come to Oliver Platt's defense to defend his honor. A group can be tricky without being terrifying. People on social media.
The amount of people that took issue with that, I couldn't believe it. Like, I'm not saying that they're going to finish I said that the group was fairly tricky, which I think is a fair assessment of Curacao being probably the best pot 3 team. And Honduras away is always a difficult game, right? I'm not saying it's as tricky as the World Cup group. Like, I get it, guys.
You know what? You're just getting trolled. Like that's why you just don't.
I really am.
Like you put out, it's like the platform where you put out an innocuous statement, just vague, like just something, and then people just pick it apart. It's like, okay, do you want me to share anything at all? So then just don't share anything. That's just the
can't help myself, Wheels.
One of my favorite things I've heard about Twitter this weekend was Twitter is the best platform to disseminate information. It is the worst platform to talk about it. And that is my thoughts.
Well, because it's grandstanding.com. Everyone thinks they're more important than everyone else. And the only people that use it more than anyone else is the media. Less than 15% of Canadians are on Twitter, yet we act like it's like 100%. It's nonsense. Yeah. So anyways.
Also, to mention, Twitter by Tesla coming to a market near you very soon. Lastly, on the men's national team, let's talk about some awards because these are always contentious. We know Alphonso Davies is the biggest superstar in CONCACAF. That is not even an argument, and it's not just because I have a Canadian flag pseudo-tattooed above my heart. It is just a fact. But do you agree? No, I don't actually. I'm too much of a coward to put one.
Get one.
I was trying to add some gravitas. You do not want to see that this early on a Wednesday. But is Alphonso Davies the deserved CONCACAF Player of the Year, especially in an awards ceremony that saw some pretty big Canadians, Kyle Larin, Jonathan David, get disrespected, which is not a surprise. Gareth Wheeler, is Alphonso Davies the true CONCACAF Player of the Year?
Look, we can mince words here, kind of like jumping on Ollie's back on Twitter, but like the best player in CONCACAF is Alphonso Davies, so it's not a bad place to default and start. And remember, Alphonso has missed his games with the national team here in 2022. Last year, he showed up, even the first and second rounds of qualifying. His club season with Bayern Munich was incredible again, and he provided the moment of all moments with his goal against Panama. I have absolutely no problem with Alphonso Davies winning the Player of the Year award in CONCACAF. Jonathan David, there's absolutely a case to be made. Yes, Kyle Larin should have been a finalist. Like, the fact that he wasn't is a little bit of a misstep. I'm not going to lose sleep over it because I think inevitably they landed on the right player in Alphonso Davies winning that award.
Yeah, it just depends what you're looking for, right? And I'd like the criteria to maybe be a little bit clearer, because I think if it's just like who's the best player in CONCACAF, it's Alphonso Davies. Like, if you're taking in club form, national team form, and everything, it's Davies. He's the best player in this region. He should win the awards. If the award is about CONCACAF performances, then obviously you can make a much stronger case for Kyle Larin and all the goals he scored throughout World Cup qualifying last year. So, but like Will said, I'm no issue with the best player in the region winning the award for the best player in the region.
That I was waiting for an exclamation mark, but I think that was more of a mic drop than an exclamation mark.
Right.
So that is where we will leave it, because quite frankly, there's not a whole lot more to add on that. Women's national team is headed to British Columbia. In fact, they're already in Vancouver as they prepare for their first.
Adam, sorry to cut you off. That's where with the award, Crystal Dunn winning it for a dysfunctional United States team. If there was any complaint to be made, it was that Jessie Fleming didn't win that award.
Amen. Amen. Again, Gareth Wheeler on the segues today, absolutely crushing it, because we will be seeing Jessie Fleming at Beacon Place and then at Starlight Stadium as the celebration tour continues. Obviously, this is a massive homecoming for Christine Sinclair, finally able to celebrate with a lot of friends and family and just fellow British Columbians, becoming the world's all-time international goal-scoring leader. And of course, a very well-deserved farewell to Stephanie LeBay with a pending retirement coming. However, we are celebrating a lot of things, of course, the Olympic gold medal as well. But Gareth, with this being a World Cup qualifying year for them, should this be more of a preparation tour than a celebration tour from here on out?
I said that weeks ago. By the way, do I get royalties on that? It's not the celebration tour. It's turned into the preparation tour. By the way, thank you for giving me free reign to continue interrupting as I do all the time. Classic sketch, by the way. Conan O'Brien back in the day, the interrupter, brilliant. Yeah, but it's kind of a weird one. There's a lot that's weird about this, because Canada Soccer wanted to have this celebration game for Christine Sinclair, right? It's not just about winning the gold medal. It was celebrating Christine Sinclair becoming, the greatest goal scorer of all time. So they wanted it in Vancouver. Drawing teams from Europe and other places sometimes is a little bit of a challenge to bring them all the way out to Vancouver. So who did you end up with? The 39th ranked team in the women's game in Nigeria. Not the best competition. In my opinion, not the best team to prepare against heading into a World Cup qualifying year. I'm not sure they're like for like with anyone in the region. Look, I want to be playing the team that is most similar to Mexico, because that's the team that stands in your way potentially of qualifying for these competitions. Is that Nigeria? No, it is not. So yeah, it's a little bit of a celebration, a lot about preparation. No matter who they play, they need to prove that they can score goals in difficult games. Will these games be difficult? Probably not, but that's the end goal here. That's going to be the thing that's going to make or break Canada this summer, is whether they can score goals in difficult games. And that's the biggest question mark about this team heading in. Nothing else. Defensively, great structure, good camaraderie, good teamwork, good coaching. They've across the board, it's check, 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 check until you get into the attacking third. And that's where the question mark exists. And I'm not sure we'll learn anything from these two games, whether Canada has taken that step in the right direction or not.
Yeah, I don't disagree really, but I think if I'm being a bit more charitable to the kind of choice of opposition, they played the top teams at the Arnold Clark Cup, right? So they have had some reps against very good opposition this year, and now you maybe play a lower ranked team, and it's basically like an attacking training exercise, right? You're just going to play in the opposition half the entire game, and you try and find solutions against a very deep defense. Maybe there's some use in that, particularly going into a tournament where you're going to play a lot of teams that will approach games against Canada that way. So we'll see. It's going to be a really interesting summer. I feel like, at the same time, I feel better than I have for a long time about Canada's ability to potentially beat the United States. But I also feel more threat from Mexico than I have probably ever. So there's kind of two sides of it, right? So it's going to be a really interesting tournament. But hopefully, these games can at least allow them, as I said, to work on the attacking phase of the game.
The irony of that, Ollie, is how you think about the conversation on the men's side of things, where it's like the Americans are now, they're more confident that they can take it to Mexico because they have, at least at home. And then they're like, oh, yeah, Canada's here all of a sudden. So it's a little bit of a juxtaposition there. But we are very excited. It's going to be an amazing event, two amazing events, both in Vancouver and on Vancouver Island. And people in the Pacific time zone laughing at the Eastern time zone's expense. Finally, both matches kick off at 10:30 p.m. The 8th and the 11th, both against
in
Nigeria.
Starlight. I'm
That's
thrilled
right.
that it's coming to Langford. That's great.
Fun.
It's going to be fantastic. Cannot wait to be a part of those broadcasts. Of course, you can see those right here on One Soccer. Gentlemen, we went long. That's not a surprise, but what I'm going to try and get you to do is go through these final questions quickly just to address some Major League Soccer before we end the show. Oliver, let's start here. New York City and Seattle tonight. CONCACAF Champions League semifinal. Is this the year? Is this still the year? Because we've asked this question a few times, that an MLS club wins because one of them is going to be in the final. And what would that mean for Major League Soccer?
This is the year. I'm going to be optimistic. I'm going to be confident. I've expressed my doubts about MLS teams in Champions League a lot this season. But I think this is the year, and it has to be the year. Like I say over and over again, I won't go into too much detail here because we're already going along, but continental football needs to be bigger, needs to mean more in CONCACAF than it currently does, on the club side, that is. So hopefully this can be the start of something in terms of MLS teams being more competitive there.
Glad to see Ollie jumping ship, coming over to the to the right way of seeing this. Yes, it is the year. It has to be, and it better be the Seattle Sounders because they have a better chance than New York for me.
There we go. Montreal, they will travel to the Red Bulls. Toronto FC heads to Real Salt Lake, and Vancouver hosts Portland. Gareth, which Canadian MLS side winning this weekend would surprise you the most?
Vancouver. I just think that they're the worst team out of the three, even playing at home. A 1-0 against Sporting Kansas City in a must-win game. That's fine. Still stuck on 4 points. Portland's a good team. Vancouver would surprise me the most.
Oliver Platt?
Montreal, Red Bulls on the road. That's a tough matchup, particularly for a team that can't really defend right now.
I'm going to bounce the final question back to Gareth because he just sort of alluded to it. Vancouver's on 4 points. They are favored at home against Portland. A win could put them very much back in the mix following a slow start. Gareth, let's go, Gareth. Did we write off Vancouver a little too early? Are they still in this thing?
No one's writing them off. We're 5 games into the season. I know no one has written them off, but if they are a home favorite and you're getting some good juice on Portland this weekend, I'd suggest going out and making a savvy bet on the Portland Timbers this weekend.
There you go. Last word to Oliver Platt.
I think I'm a bit more optimistic that the Whitecaps could get a result this weekend, but they still have a lot to prove. No one's writing them off. We're just saying what we're seeing, and right now, I don't think it really looks like a playoff team. But the quality is there, on paper for that to change.
Alrighty, well, that's going to wrap it up for us today. Almost got through this whole show without swallowing my own tongue, but here we are. We made it. Gentlemen, thank you. Holly Williams, behind the scenes, shout out to you as well. We will see you tomorrow. The CPL is back, season 4 and Match Day Live. You will see those two gentlemen. You will hear me and Terry Dunfield. Cannot wait to kick things off again. And before you go, if you haven't already, click that subscribe button down below. Like this video, share it with a friend. Let's keep spreading the good word about Canadian soccer. It is the place to be right now. For Gareth, Ollie, myself, Adam, and I guess we should congratulate Andy Petrillo one final time on a very well-deserved Canadian Screen Award Best Sports Host in Canada. Mic drop. See you guys tomorrow for CPL.